Welcome to Getting Defensive Weekend Primer presented by Gridiron Ratings. I'm your host, JJ Wenner, and week 15 kicked my butt. We were just talking about it. I don't know what happened to everybody else, but I got absolutely murdered. But we are here to help those ragged survivors and those lucky bye recipients for week 16. With me, as always, is Gridiron Ratings senior IDP analyst. You can find him on Twitter at the IDP analyst, the IDP tipster, Gary Van Dyke. What's going on, Gary?
I just checking this out. This whole triage of defensive players heading into the weekend. I don't know what to say. I'll let Tripp take over from there because I'm thinking he's got a few thoughts about it.
Also with us is our returning champion. Hey, this is the first time we've all three been together in a couple weeks, but
Yep.
You can find him on Twitter at Dynasty Tripp. Tripp Brebner, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. I'm rolling with the punches on all these COVID moves and whatnot. I think that the short answer to Gary's question is just start the guys that are active.
Right.
Anyone who's
Right.
active.
Anyone.
Except Yannick Ngakwe, who was active last week. Got me zero points.
I mentioned to sit him and Crosby. Hey, I'm going to let you in on another secret. Set him again this week.
Oh, you know what? He is sitting because I'm out.
Yeah.
All my players are sitting.
Well,
They're all relaxing this week.
They are all taking it off, are they?
Playing some golf somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not bitter, so
Yeah. The matchup was terrible for them, and they're inconsistent as hell, even when it's good. They had a little roll there for a minute. And
thanks, Gary.
Yeah. I said it. I could have swore I said it last weekend.
Not loud enough for me to hear.
Yeah, apparently not.
All right, gentlemen. Well,
hard to take notes and ask the questions and host, right?
I know.
Like
the only reason I do this is to win my leagues. And
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what happens this week.
That didn't work out well.
Not so far. But luckily, I had a few buys, so
yeah.
Let's see what happens this week. But, gentlemen, we got some Saturday games. Merry Christmas to us. Cleveland at Green Bay. Now, Cleveland's in for a bit of a rough time again. Clowney's out now. Newsome, Harrison, John Johnson. Where are we on Myles Garrett? I know he's banged up, but he is going to play, right?
Yeah, I looked it up. He's planning on playing through it. Now, personally, I mean, it's not the super best matchup. It's kind of funny because the last 5 weeks, the Packers have really been protecting the edge and Rodgers has been getting rid of the ball. So it's not like the perfect one, but it is Garrett. So it is a groin pull. I don't expect him to like bust his ceiling or anything in this matchup, but it is Myles Garrett. If he's going to play, you've got to play him. It's the playoffs. I mean, he's better than probably, trying to reach for your other. If you got Aaron Donald or Myles Garrett in a shallow league, folks, well, then go with Aaron Donald. But at this point,
you're playing Garrett if he's healthy.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You better have one hell of a replacement there.
I saw an interview with him, and he said unless it pops, it's the end of the season. Everybody's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anybody else? Green Bay? What are you looking at, Tripp?
Well, I'm looking at MJ Stewart, who is a backup safety for the Browns. And if Harrison and Johnson are, in fact, out again, then you can expect MJ Stewart to step in. And what's really particularly attractive is he has a cornerback designation on MFL. He had 11 tackles, a pass defense, and a forced fumble last week. So that's a guy that's a bit of a cheat code there. I'm pretty excited about that, actually. I'm wishing I had gone ahead and put him in my waivers earlier because I thought that Harrison and Johnson might be back after COVID list in time to play this game. But if not, then
that's a great one. He actually has a top 10 matchup, right, against the Packers. And so I mean, it's going to be productive by default. I actually had Harrison and Delpit on like IR last week and was kind of waiting to see if one of them, because it was a good matchup. But then in one of those leagues that I actually made it through, I pulled, what was his name? Mallet? Started with an M, right?
For which player?
Tripp, the guy you just mentioned, the safety.
MJ Stewart.
MJ Stewart. Yeah.
Oh, MJ Stewart. I thought it was
Ryan Mallett. No, that was a quarterback.
no.
That was a long time ago, right? That was a quarterback.
Yeah, he's the guy that put on a clinic
Well,
for Houston a few years ago and got benched after that. So
I just want to make sure that I've got the right name because I might have screwed up and Tripp just helped me out.
Well, at least somebody's being helped.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's go to the other Christmas game, Indy at Arizona. Now, Jalen Thompson has clearly outplayed Budda Baker in both fantasy and real football, right? For the year. Is there anybody or any reason to start Budda over Jalen this week? Tripp?
And those two guys feel like a toss-up. Their roles are just too similar now. I mean, it used to be that, I remember talking about this months ago. It feels like an eternity ago now, and maybe it was this pod, but in between Zaven Collins, Isaiah Simmons, well, not so much Collins, but what was his name? Hicks, Jordan Hicks, Isaiah Simmons, and Budda Baker. They couldn't all be these top tacklers. Something had to give, and the place that gave was Budda Baker, and he's not been playing. He's not had to crash down as much. He's been able to stay back more. And I saw something that our man Justin Barnes put on the Bird app a while back, and this is in part just a reflection of a maturation in Baker's game, that he's able to play deep more. He's able to do more. He's not just a banger, and that's a good thing for as an NFL player. But as a fantasy asset, it doesn't necessarily help us. And Jalen Thompson is a guy the Cardinals have liked for a while. He just has not been able to stay healthy, and he obviously until this year. And so, with the two of them being roughly interchangeable in that defense, it's like it's a bit of a kind of a statistical anomaly. I think that Jalen Thompson is so much more useful for IDP this year, and it's not something I would bank on necessarily. So between those two guys, I think if you're trying to choose between them, I don't think there's a wrong answer necessarily. I don't love either of them. I think either's fine in this matchup.
Who do they play? Colts.
Yeah,
The Colts.
Oh yeah, that's another top 10 matchup there, folks. You just plug them in, get them what they they'll get it or they won't. That's how it works this year. Hey, to back up and go to the Cleveland situation. So just because the guy I had on my radar, see, I see Stewart, but he's marked as a cornerback on fantasy data. So I'm looking at Jonavanta Moffait, Moffait. He got 78% of the snaps. I believe he went 4 solo and 4 assists. So just another guy. That's actually who I picked.
Javonte
so
Moffett.
we actually have two guys that we possibly could use if Johnson, Delfit, and Harrison are all out or whatever, if these guys get to play.
Mm-hmm.
So these are deep reaches, folks. But, I mean, they are solid play, and Baltimore they're number one allowing anything to the safety area. It's like a gold mine out there. So unless all of a sudden Baltimore changes what they're doing, and they're not. They got Hundley starting again this week?
Yeah, I think so. Not positive. I haven't seen anything.
I still don't see the scenario changing. Just want to go back.
No.
Hit that up, folks. That might be a deep play. Those are definitely viable plays, though, considering the situation with COVID.
All right. Before we go to the Sunday games, Craig Reef, host of our Tuesday show, asks, he needs 2 safeties to start in a balanced scoring league. Options: Poyer, Bates, McKinney, Curse, Winfield, and Neal. Gary, which 2 are you going with?
Yeah, I had looked that over before. I might be ahead of Tripp there. I don't know if he's had a chance to see it, but that's a lot to pick from. And it boiled down to McKinney and Curse. They both, to me, have the best matchups, and we can expect them to match it. The problem with Bates, he's actually up there too with his matchup. As I was saying, Baltimore allows a lot of points to the safety, and that's who they're playing, right? Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
So I messed up when I said Cleveland. I said they're playing Packers, which is still a top 10 matchup, folks. So got my two Ohio where I live. I got my two Ohio teams messed up. Cincinnati, Cleveland, they're all orange and black or brown or whatever. So anyhow, back on track. I if I got those three to pick from, that's who actually has the best matchups on paper. I can't trust Bates to hit a ceiling. You know, he's been up and down all year. He's actually had a few matchups that the MSR was there, and he didn't get it. So there's that risk. You know, Von Bell always hits the matchup strength, I think. But you know, I Bates is a close third there. But I'm
so you're going McKinney Curse.
Yes, I am. All
right, McKinney Curse it is. Tripp, where are you?
And I like Poyer. I can't sit Poyer. If I have Poyer on my roster, he's in there. He's one of the handful of guys, really a handful of safeties that I just don't think twice about it. I leave him in every week, and I don't hate this matchup this week, so I'll roll with that. And Curse has just been effective to the point where it's hard to sit him. I hear Bates is like the guy that has the matchup that's appealing, but he's just playing deep more and has not been as useful this year as he has in years past. So I think I'd side with go with Gary saying there too, and roll with Curse as my second guy. So I'd have Curse and Poyer out of those.
All right, there you have it, Craig. Anybody else has any start-sit questions, please feel free to post them in the comments. All right, Sunday games. Detroit at Atlanta. With Wood and Anzaloni out, Reeves Maben saw a huge jump trip. Are we confident in his playing time going forward?
I'm not confident in any of those guys, man. That was a game that was just emblematic of what we've been dealing with here, because you had the Lions winning 30-12 in a game they had no business winning, and linebackers were dropping like flies in that game. Alex Anzaloni was lost for the season. He's been the starter all year. They had a guy named Josh Woods who was starting the week before. He got hurt. They had Jason Kabinda playing. I think he scored a touchdown somehow. I didn't see how. They just guys all over the place. Antonio Pittman was another linebacker that was playing. Derek Barnes is, of course, the rookie. It's just none of those guys is just screaming out, "Hey, we're going to play full time." In my mind, I just don't see how you could even consider putting one of those guys in there.
Yeah, unless it's a deeper league, because I actually have a couple of deeper leagues that I would love to have his assistance. He's actually on somebody's roster and in the lineup for some people, the deep league. I actually went looking for maybe, but the rest of them don't interest me at all. I mean, they all hit, Woods hit the wall. You can't trust him. Barnes has been in there before, and he's never really, even when he's got the opportunity, he's not lit anything on fire. So, I mean, at least Maybeam produces for what he plays. He was producing when he was getting 60-70% of the snaps. If he gets 90, cool. Hopefully he's like a linebacker for play for you folks. We're not talking, 2 to 3 guys. You should have plenty in a standard size league. I'm talking 16 team league with deep benches. So, the serious ones, I guess.
But
the ones you gotta think.
But you don't know who you had on your roster. I mean, there are some shallow leagues that I'm in that I burned through my depth charts just because of COVID and injuries. And I'm searching the waiver wire now for a starter.
And it's all on somebody else's who's not in the playoffs that nobody, there's all the pickings are slim on some of those waiver wires that are really deep. Even with the shallower benches.
Yeah. Well, let's stick with linebackers. Baltimore is visiting Cincy now. With all the injuries to the starters, the Bengals may be turning to the sophomore Boilermaker, Marcus Bailey, at linebacker. Are we starting him, or is this the same thing? No trust.
I don't hate him as an LB4 type. I mean, it's like because they're playing the Ravens, it's a matchup where you'd expect them to play a little bit more 2 linebackers. That's not been their preference this year. They've typically gone with 1 full-time linebacker and 1 part-time guy. But Bailey may see the uptick in snaps just because of the matchup, and so that's relatively attractive. Pratt is a smash start. I don't know if people are following that storyline exactly, but with Logan Wilson doubtful, Pratt's the guy that's been playing full time, and he's just been piling up stats. So he's a great start. If you're in a spot, you need a guy. Hey, Bailey.
Yeah. Sucks, man. Logan Wilson was rolling, wasn't he?
Oh, he was.
Yeah, Pratt was too. Yeah, I agree. If you're reaching for an LB4 deep one, that's somebody to look at. I mean, he's that second linebacker. I don't know. Tripp might have alluded to it. It plays on average maybe 50% of the snaps. Seems like, depends. And so there's not really anything there.
All right, looking at the Rams visiting the Vikings. DJ Wonham has been playing well. He had a monster performance with 3 sacks against the Bears last week. Is he a must start going forward for the remainder of this year, Gary?
Must start. No, far from it. It was, I'll tell you what. Here's how I'm approaching it this weekend. On paper, he should be okay, this week. I don't see what happened last week ever happening again for the rest of this year, probably the guy's career. He just went off, right? I just don't know. I don't trust him enough. If I have to pick between a couple of DE2s or something, he's still, the matchup's appealing. So, at this point in time, there's a lot of people on COVID, these deeper leagues or something. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely an option.
Tripp, is there anybody you're starting on the Vikings this week?
The one thing that stands out is, of course, Harrison Smith, but he's probably a starter everywhere. So that's the one thing that really appeals to me there. I think he's pretty interesting. I took a look at the cornerbacks just because of what's going on with the, Cooper Kupp and all the targets he gets, and the cornerback room has been pretty variable in there. So I looked at Mackenzie Alexander and thought about that a little bit, but just can't really get behind anybody in particular. But there's definitely potential. But I think Harrison Smith is really the only guy that's priority for me.
I'd like to say Michael Pierce because he just got back and he's been playing a little bit more, but his snap count's not up enough to trust.
That's a big rotation at D line there. We talked with Armin Watson this show a couple weeks ago, and he's been a bit of a disappointment lately. It's just too much rotation.
On the Rams side of the ball, I'm a little worried about Gaines. Gaines has actually been pretty serviceable for a lot of people, maybe in deeper leagues, whatever. But he's actually been pretty serviceable. But I'm not all in love with the matchup this week. You can't sit Aaron Donald, Floyd. I believe who they got. They got remind me.
Vikings.
So yeah, I do believe that's a solid matchup for who would be Floyd and Miller. Right? Just looking here real quick.
Yeah, Leonard Floyd, Von Miller.
Yeah, it's almost top 10 matchup. So yeah. So you should expect something from Miller. I don't know what, but
when's the last time you did something? That's the issue.
Right. It's the matchups there. Miller just needs to get it done, and then Floyd should be fine. He should be solid enough. Maybe have a decent game.
All right, the Bills are visiting the Patriots in an AFC East showdown.
Ernest Jones. I can't go without saying the name Ernest Jones, folks. Strong matchup this week. I've been preaching it.
Should I play some romantic music under this?
Yeah. Another one. So, all right. I got that out. I feel better. I almost hyperventilated, man. I didn't get to say it.
My issue there is the Dalvin Cook's out. I don't know what's going on. What's going to happen with this offense this week, and that's one of the hardest things about our sit starts is that we're looking at matchups. We're looking at season-long points, position points against, and some of the stuff is just thrown off by who's on the field for the opposing team. This is going to be a tough week.
I mean, last week you had Minnesota won, and Cousins didn't even pass for 100 yards.
Right. Mm-hmm. You probably have to throw this week.
Yeah, a little bit more at least. All right, Bills, Patriots. Gary, our old friend Jamie Collins played a lot this past week. What are your thoughts on him moving forward?
I think Bill Belichick is a sneaky son of a gun. I think he's okay. So now picture this:
get out of here.
He gets his old buddy Collins back. He's got him there, and he's telling him, "Say, hey, look, I don't even need you right now. Just rest up because we're going to make a playoff run. You watch." All right. So now all of a sudden you've got Van Noy, Juden, and Collins coming off that edge. I think Collins, I'm not saying rush out and play him this week, but if this happens again this week, and especially against Buffalo, which is not that tough or not that easy of a matchup for him, if he gets that same percentage and if he gets that same result, he'll be a serious consideration for an edge play, a DL play if you're lucky. I doubt you got that out there. Really deep league LB play. We'll see what he does, but I think in real life though, you got to go up and pat Bill Belichick on the back again, because I think he's getting ready to really push through these with this defense, through the playoffs.
Tripp, anybody's jumping out at you in that matchup?
Man, this is the Patriots, man. It's like, when are we ever happy starting Patriots? Unless it's a cornerback, right? I mean, you start J.C. Jackson every week.
Yep.
But other than that,
Duger, and Phillips. Yeah. All of a sudden, McCourty, McCourty or whatever, the other third safety, the guy's been there for like 20 years. He all of a sudden had a good game last week, but
Duggar didn't
he's
have
inconsistent.
A good week last week.
Yeah, he picked all his lap, right? I mean, he was the guy.
Right.
Right.
So usually it's, if you're going to get anything, it's going to be Duger and Phillips. You can't trust those linebackers. There's such a huge rotation. No, actually, I'd like to mention the rookie Barmore. He was actually at one point getting like 80% of the snaps as a defensive lineman for the Patriots, and that's not normal whatsoever. Usually they have a really large one. He is still getting, him and Godchecks are getting like, I think 65% on average. They're up there for what used to be a 50. He used to have like 5 to 6 guys rotating. Well, he's narrowed that down a little bit. It's usually Guy, Barmore, and Godchecks. What's his name?
Godshaw.
Thank you. So I knew I was saying it wrong.
Just actually,
by the big
like
smile
God
on your face. No,
Godchecks is a little bit better. I like that name.
Right. Oh, okay. All right. He was actually a breakout call of mine a couple years ago. He didn't really, but with Miami, but he was serviceable, but not solid.
I think he's a much better NFL player than he is an IDP player.
All right. Now, I'm not telling nobody to go rushing after these defensive linemen, because I'm going to tell you right now, again, this is not really a good matchup. It's not an idea unless you're in a deeper league. It's just interesting to me that there's been a change to where he's not rotating. Last 2 years, he might have actually been rotating 6 to 7 people on that defensive line. What do you think, Tripp?
Well, the thing about the Patriots is they do a lot of two-gapping, and then you got the position eligibility. The MFL, I know not everybody plays MFL, but they changed Lawrence Guy to defensive end this year, making him totally useless. And it's, I thought Barmore there I see what you're saying there. About 6 weeks ago, I think I had Barmore on my waiver wire ad list. I really thought there was an opportunity for him to step up. And there's always going to be a guy or two on that defense who's tasked with the one to get upfield, doing penetrating. And I thought Barmore looked primed to step into that role and hasn't really emerged in the way I thought that he might. He is a rookie, so obviously he deserves time.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he might have got banged up or something at some point, because realistically, there was a span. I'm not going to stop. I guess I could, but I'll see if I can get there quickly. He had a span where he was – it just take too long. But either way, he had a span where he was actually hitting that 80% mark. And he did it like for 4 or 5 weeks. I actually had him on a waiver wire article for deep leagues. I try to cover it all. So I was deep on this. And he actually paid off. I put him on for 3 weeks. He didn't make it through the entire 3 weeks. But I got desperate at one point and put him on, and he actually came through for me. But then all of a sudden his snaps counts dropped.
Well, from week 7 until week 11, he was over 60%, topping out at 85% in week 10.
Okay. That might have been the week that I actually hit on him. So, but it's just, I find it because, for one, he's a rookie, and usually Bill Belichick wouldn't put a rookie in that position anyways. He would have found another way to do that. Yeah, I don't think anybody was really hurt that week. He just got it. So, just somebody that I think you might be able to keep on the radar possibly for next year or something, and again in a deep format.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, sticking in the AFC East, the Jags are coming to the Jets in the toilet bowl. I'm hoping the Jags win. It would help our draft position. But now the snaps are still there for Josh Allen. Josh Allen has been playing well, at least according to PFF. He just hasn't been putting up the big splash plays that we like. No sacks since week 9. No fumble recoveries or forced fumbles since week 11. But with the Jets coming to town, this is the get healthy week, right?
Like, what do you think, Tripp?
I do. I like Josh Allen. I think he's a good player. Zach Wilson standing back there, patting the ball. He thinks he's still in college. He gave up like at least 6 or 7 sacks last week. He got eaten alive. This is a game with 2 equally matched teams. The Jacksonville hasn't. I guess the Houston they should have been equally matched with, but yeah, part of the thing is that they're really struggling with turmoil in their locker room, and so maybe they're going to step it up a little bit this week. I think that they were just kind of shell shocked last week, and they just got housed. But the other thing is Josh Allen doesn't have a lot of guys around him. I mean, that's the thing too. Is this? But to me, this is the week to roll. I traded for him in one league, and that was a spot on a podcast. Was it IDP Nation that I wasn't named in, but I'll own it because I think he's a good player. I think he's going to get a sack and be worth the ad this week. So I'm excited about him. And if you're in a deeper league, I think Jaylon Smith's worth a look too. I mean, that guy he's okay. I mean, that's a third rotational edge rusher. He's okay. He's getting a fair amount of time with Jacksonville, and I'd be looking at that. This is a couple teams. I think they're going to do some throwing of the football and give me Josh Allen.
Yeah, Smoot's actually been playing more snaps
and producing better.
Yeah, because talent-wise, I think he's a third guy, but because of the Jacksonville situation, he's had to play more.
Yeah. I picked him up. I had to get him in a couple of the deeper leagues. I think.
So, Gary, are you starting Josh Allen this week?
At Josh Allen's level, after 5 disappointing weeks, or maybe 1 in 5 that's been good. If I have, a comparable, maybe if I had Brian Burns or something, or I don't know, some comparable, I probably
Brian Burns is playing Tampa. You wouldn't start him against Tampa,
right? Yeah, it's still almost mine. I don't know. I've lost faith in Josh Allen. I don't know. Is he getting double teamed so much?
Are you going to
either way?
Burns?
He's probably a solid play. If you got him, you're going to have to play him. But if you're sitting on somebody like Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, or something like that, yeah, Josh Allen's not even an afterthought. The matchups there, he's got to bounce back here. I looked to see if he's hurt. I thought maybe he's playing hurt. He's not. I couldn't find anything on it, so it's questionable.
When you're the one defensive weapon on a team. Yeah, I think it's kind of easy for a team to focus.
This might be an interesting. Here's how I feel about it. If I owned both players, him and Smoot, I'm playing Smoot because Smoot's been producing more per snap than what Allen's even came close to the last 5 weeks. Overall average. Look at it. That's what I'm saying.
I'm going Josh Allen.
Of course, I lost half my leagues last week. Not half. I lost a couple, though.
We'll see. I don't have Josh Allen in any league, so
book it.
I don't even get to start him. Is Jason still there? Has he done anything?
Oh, no. Yeah. And I think he's he's a strong side linebacker or something. Yeah. I don't even know if he even really knows what the backfield of the other team looks like. He's always looking over going, man, that's green over there.
I think they have him doing too much.
Greener than where he's at.
Yeah, he's not happening this year. He needs I don't know what's going to happen next year. I mean, it would be interesting to see what happens with the coaching situation and everything else. But I think been a couple of years.
I think their free safety, Rasheen Jenkins, maybe he went on IR, COVID or something. Yeah. You might be looking at Ford getting a little boost. I think the matchup's actually kind of pretty solid. But realistically, the only one that's actually been doing anything in a deeper format, you might look like Wingard. I mean, he's just been steady Eddie. He's actually, I had a peek the other day, and he's actually graded out well at PFF too. He's kind of an underrated player for the Jacksonville team. I don't think he was that good last year. I don't remember him grading out that guy. I think he would have been on a lot more people's radars this year because I'm pretty sure he was under par. But he's grading out well right now, I think. If you guys are checking, I believe that's correct. But anyways, so he's really the only option. But Ford might be somebody to just keep an eye on for maybe in the future. I don't know. This whole Rashawn Jenkins things has worked out for the Jaguars that well. And then Cisco got a little bump coming, probably as a third safety or something. We might actually get to see a little preview of what he might have for next year, get something on film, see how he can run with the big boys, because they didn't do it. He was like a third rounder, I think, and nothing this year. No playing time.
Cisco is Wingard's backup, and Daniel Thomas is Rashawn Jenkins' direct backup. And Thomas is the one that came on the field when Jenkins got hurt last week. It'll be interesting to see if they go with that same thing or if they decide to mix it up a little bit. When you're in game like that, you just have to bring on the direct backup and let them play those snaps. But if you have a week to practice, you might look at something else. So, yeah, I'm interested to see if Cisco can get on the field too. But if you're in a super deep league, I think my super deep sleeper this week, if you had to have safety help, would be Daniel Thomas.
Who?
Anybody on the Jets side starting?
I like the corners. That's what I've been looking at. In particular, I like Michael Carter, who's the slot guy. The Jaguars are one of the most pass-heavy teams in the league, and you got guys like Chenault and Laquan Treadwell catching the ball over the middle. And I think Michael Carter could play a higher snap count than usual and be a pretty attractive option. He's a guy that's, by virtue of playing in the slot, does see some opportunities from time to time to rush the passer from that position. And so that's where I'd be looking at. He's been a pretty solid player this year, and that's who I'd put out there if I had to get a Jet active.
Guess who I'm not starting?
Jared Davis.
I'm not yet. Definitely not Jared Davis.
Quinnen Williams.
Thank you for that trip. Memory lanes. Yeah, just you caught me on fire, man. I'm not playing any of the defensive line for the Jets, and plus Williams is Quincy Williams. I think is banged up or Quentin, whichever one's on the two brothers. It's plain and simple. The linebackers, you don't sit them, and you try to pick out whoever's in that secondary, whoever's healthy. You know, not all of them are really strong plays, but there are usually a couple each week out of there, and then maybe a solid one. So, but
I gotta say, I mean, you're sitting Quinnen Williams. I might get it, but man, I don't think I'd have the nerve to sit him if I had him.
That matchup is not good, believe it or not, on paper. And at the same time, he's banged up. I think he only played like 40% of the snaps last week. I can look up the news real quick. I'm not risking it because over the last 5 weeks, if we want to think about this on this point, okay, over the last 5 weeks, the Jaguars, let's see. They're in the bottom 8 allowing points to the defensive tackle. Now, I know that they're going to start running Robinson again, all right? So we know that's going to be a little bit more, but they haven't necessarily, when they're running Robinson, giving up that much points either. It's kind of been like this all year. I don't trust in the middle of any playoffs. If I own somebody like Quinnen Williams, hopefully I'm finding a really good replacement. I in a deeper league, I'm not playing him. If I have deeper reaches, I guess you could say, I could think of a lot more guys that I would probably rather reach for than going there. I'd stick Wormley back in this week over that, but Wormley's a little bit banged up, and it's just a solid matchup. So I was actually I'm actually replacing. I've been a Wormley fan. I found a couple of other better matchups that the Gridiron Ratings members will probably see when they go eyes on in the search bar of their start sit charts. But anyways, I'm just scared, man. Call me scared. I'm not starting any Jets defensive linemen. It's just a
How
golden
dare you?
rule.
How dare you?
Me. Right.
How dare you?
Anything behind there, just double their points.
All right, let's go to the Giants at Eagles. There has been a Jaylon Smith sighting. He played 17 snaps. Now, I know that we are not starting Jaylon Smith. But should we be adding him just in case?
It's kind of an interesting scenario to me. I mean, he's probably on a lot of waiver wires out there. And if you had a super deep dynasty, yeah, pick him up, stick him on there this week and see what happens. But you're right. Yeah, it's far, you can't trust him. There's a huge amount of positive news coming out on this. They're so excited about having him. And, right now he might just step up. He done sent Ragland to the bench. McKinney cut into half of McKinney's snap percentage. And McKinney's not done anything since he signed with it. So now it's too late in the year. We're right here, week 16, 17, 18. You just for really put him out of your mind. You would really, if he did real well this week for some crazy reason, next week he'd just be too risky, folks. Hopefully you're not going there unless you're really reaching for a flyer. But Crowder is not all that good. He's overplayed his role this year since Martinez went down. He was supposed to be in there next to Martinez, and Martinez would be absorbing all these tackles, and he was going to be trying to cover. He's not that good of a player. I believe if we look at his PFF grade, if I remember at least from last year, it was not very good at all. So Jaylon Smith might become something. He might have found a new home. Considering the situation, he might look pretty good next to Blake Martinez because there's not much to go with.
Tripp, am I starting Jaylon Smith?
You'd have to be in a spot to want to do it, but I don't think it's the absolutely worst possible thing you could do. Philadelphia has become incredibly run heavy lately, and it's the other thing too is that the following week is against the Bears, who are giving up feeding points to the linebacker position too. So if you were in a really deep league and had to have a guy and felt like you were in a jam, it would be a Hail Mary type of a play, but I could see it. And then next week, and that's why he's worth picking up in redraft, because then next week against the Bears, it may be a spot where you want to stick him in there. And so, again, you're talking deep leagues here, but I'm kind of intrigued by it. And he had 4 tackles and 17 snaps last week. It was just, it was like, it was enough to kind of get your attention and say, well, what's going on? Because as Gary was pointing out, he's putting these other run stoppers to the bench because they're not doing anything either. And so Crowder's supposed to be more the coverage backer. And so Smith is in there as the run stopper, and he's playing 2 teams that need to run the ball because they don't have very effective pass games. It's kind of interesting.
All right. Tampa is at Carolina. Derek Brown is on the COVID list. Anybody we're starting on the Panthers side? I know don't start anybody against Tampa on the defensive line.
No, actually, Barnes could be solid. He's done all right. He could be, in deeper formats. I'm not saying I'm going to play him, in the shallower ones if I've got a better option, that's for sure. But I think he'll get a little bit. I'm hoping Hussein Reddick kind of bounces back. I think he got into the backfield last week. I'm not sure if it was a sack tackle for a loss, but he hasn't done too much. But as a defensive line play, they're like on sleeper or something. You got to kind of play him because the ceiling can be high. So this is a divisional game. Guys play harder. Who knows?
Tripp, with Levante David out for the rest of the fantasy season, is there anybody worth a pickup?
Well, he'd probably worth picking up Kevin Minter, see what's happened. But this was true a couple weeks ago too, maybe 2 months ago, and he was next to useless. So
yeah, he doesn't produce when he's in there. He just doesn't do it. Yep.
All right.
Unfortunately, I had to go there. I actually had to go there. I had to pick up Minter because it was one of our sleeper leagues, and it's just there's nobody left on the waiver wire.
It's getting scarce, gentlemen. Chargers are at the Texans. Bosa went on the COVID list on Monday. Are we worried about him playing this weekend?
Man, with this COVID crisis, who knows? Man, it's all about getting those 2 negative tests, right? I haven't seen that he's unvaccinated. I don't know. It's all based on the protocol. So, but
yeah, they've changed the protocol again. And it's hard to find anything exactly on what the protocol is because every time you think you know what the protocol is, the protocol changes, or they only report so much of that protocol to you to let you just still left in wonder.
If you're asymptomatic,
well, you got to be a Harvard grad. You'd have to look it up. Yeah, right.
They're not going to test you.
Right.
Only
I just say put them all in mask and let them play.
Right? Yeah, they'll just all end up as chin straps. I teach middle school. I know how that works.
Right.
Anybody else in this matchup? Anybody on the Texans we're remotely interested in?
Whoever plays linebacker for the Texans, you got to put in there. They're a good play. The question is, who is it? Will Kirksey come off the COVID list in time to play? If so, he's a good play. Whoever gets in there, right? Last week it was Garrett Wallow, had 11 tackles and a sack, and he's a rookie that was a 5th-round pick, I think. Neville Hewitt, who was with the Jets last year, who was just a warm body who manages to get in the way of ball carriers. It just doesn't matter. Kamu Rujay Hill had a 20-tackle game like a month ago. Whoever is playing, you start up happily and count on those tackles to come against the Chargers. And the Chargers showed, I feel like they funneled more plays through their running backs than they had by far any other game any other game in the season. And it would just cause the Chiefs to absolutely pile up stats in the linebacker position. So, and you would imagine they would want to do that again against the Texans because you would think they would win going away. So, whoever, we just can't know at this point who is going to start because it's COVID dependent, but whoever it is worth starting, both players.
I like the line for Greenard. He should be solid. Just like you said, that funneling of running backs.
All right, let's go to the afternoon games. Gentlemen, we are running shorter on time, so let's move through these quickly. Bears at Seattle. Gary, who are you looking at in the matchup?
You got to start all your normals on Seattle's side. Taylor and Green might be a deep league dart throw off the edge for a DL play. I'll let you. Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know. It's pretty well status quo. How's that?
Yeah.
The only one that stands out to me is Ryan Neal. And he stands out in a not so good way, in my opinion. A lot of folks picked him up because Jamal Adams got hurt. Because last year, when Ryan Neal subbed for Jamal Adams, he was very productive. But the defense seems to be using safeties more conservatively this year, which is why Adams didn't have any sacks. I don't think he had any sacks before he got hurt. And so Ryan Neal he's not a bad play, but the matchup isn't ideal. The Bears don't have a tight, aren't doing a ton over the middle of the field, and a little bit more lately with Komet. I don't love it. I think if you have other options at safety, he's not a guy I'm trying to get in my lineup.
All right, let's jump over the Steelers versus the Chiefs. Now, you did say the Chiefs racked up a lot of linebacker action last week. What about this week against Pittsburgh, Tripp?
Well, it's just like Houston in a sense, right? Because when all the linebackers are healthy on the field, Willie Gay, Ben Neiman, Anthony Hitchens, and Nick Bolton, they are too rotational, and you can't count on anybody. But this week, the other thing, too, is that when they played the Chargers last week, they got behind, and the Chargers were trying to run the ball down their throat. Can we really expect Pittsburgh to do that? They might try. But odds are probably that they get behind and the Steelers are spread it out, throwing the ball a lot. Now they'll throw the ball to Harris, which is some coverage opportunities for the weak side linebacker. But that being said, without knowing the status of the linebackers, I'd be really hesitant to start any of them because if Gay's back, then there's that rotation's back again. So it's again dependent on who's active. If Gay is out again, and maybe Bolton's worth a look.
Gary, anything to add on that matchup? Steelers or Chiefs?
Well, you nailed that in the head. I think reading Chris Jones could have solid because of the running game. I think let's see, who were they playing? Because I was thinking Chargers, but that was before.
Chiefs, Steelers.
Steelers.
So you have Cam Hayward's an obvious start.
Yeah, just solid. Actually. Like I said about Wormley, I think he's still a decent play or, just solid enough play that but I've actually dropped him. So I think Hayward has his own upside, so he should do his thing, so I'm not going to avoid him. I play him over Josh Allen. Anyways, so, but back to what was about so Pittsburgh is actually pretty gifty at giving up the defensive tackles for the last 5 weeks too, I believe. So I was pretty sure Chris Jones and Reed should be solid plays with maybe a little bit of upside. And then, I'm avoiding those Kansas City. I think we got Bush on IR for COVID for Pittsburgh, which probably would bring Spillman in. Spillane, what was his name? Spillman.
Probably.
So he'll probably get him in, right? So, but that's kind of a risky play. But shoot, he might actually produce if he gets the snaps next to Skolbert. That's about all I'm thinking. I don't think I'm playing Fitzpatrick this week.
Well, the Broncos are visiting the Raiders. What's going on with Jonathan Abram? Is he playing this week? Tripp, do you know?
I don't. I think Gary put that on the show sheet. Gary, what's going on with Jonathan Abram?
I could have swore I seen him was on IR.
He could be.
I think it was
so
just
many guys in IR who can keep up.
Yeah.
Oh, he is out.
He is out.
Season-ending surgery. Yeah. Well, no bueno.
Yeah, that's a bummer. He's been pretty damn good all year. You know, that's a bummer for a lot of people that's really dependent on him.
So are we playing his backup?
I'm excited about that. Yeah, nice, super deep money play. Dallin Leavitt.
Talk it up, man.
That's
you know more about it.
They got a good matchup against the Broncos. No fan. Drew Lock back there patting the ball. Probably take some yellow shots down the field against the safeties. I like it.
What's the name?
Dallin Leavitt.
Utah State. Older.
This
guy,
was
right?
one.
He's not a kid.
No, he's been around a while. He played a few weeks ago. He had to have a spot start a few weeks ago. It was productive.
Yeah, this is one that I did not actually. I filled up the safety charts, sit charts yesterday morning. So that news on Abram just popped out today. Yeah. So I didn't even know
yesterday. Mm-hmm.
I was looking because I might need some safety help there, bro. All right,
it's not against me.
I'm looking it up. I'm good to go.
All right, let's look at Sunday night. The Washington football team is visiting Dallas. Washington has a lot of their players back who were out last week. Who were the must starts in this game?
Well, this is one, right? This is, talking about COVID. This is a game where I'm just putting a bunch of names out there because I think that people need to know what's available for these games because you're just bound to get stuck with an inactive that's ruled out like an hour ahead of time because of injury or COVID or whatever. And so I think it's the way I'm handling some of these sit starts is if I have an active player going earlier than later, I'm playing them, and I'm keeping an eye on who else is on my roster that would be a stopgap or be an alternate option if I need that. And so with respect to what's on my roster and with respect to what might be on the waiver wire, I'm just trying to keep in mind every player at every position in the Washington-Dallas game. And really all the guys that I kind of like are all on the Washington side. Montez Sweat's back after a stint in IR. He has a broken jaw. He's been a bust this year, but I think that's in part because the team was playing so poorly for a while that the defenses seemed to stabilize. And that's despite the fact that they don't even have pro-quality DNs out there without Sweat and Young. Right. And so with Sweat back, I think he did get a sack of Dak Prescott last week, and he had to play a part-time because he had COVID and was unvaccinated, and therefore it takes a hit, it takes a toll on you. And so I think they needed to wrap up the snap count. And so with him being back a week now, I would expect a higher snap count. And I don't hate so he didn't play Dak last week. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago they played the game.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. But I think he did have a sack on Tuesday. Against Hurts. So anyhow, but I would look to him this week.
Yeah, I see that Hurts ran into him. I'm kidding.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah, it counts.
That counts. That's right. So Sweat's a guy that I like. At linebacker, Cole Holcomb was put on the COVID list. He's at risk of missing the game, which means Jamin Davis would seem to step into a full-time role. That makes him pretty attractive. He's generally a guy that's rostered, but not generally startable. He would be startable this week. Another guy that would be similar in that kind of a spot would be Cam Curl. Not a guy that everybody's eager to start, but if you need a safety, if you're not don't have the stomach for Dallin Leavitt, then jump out there and go Cam Curl in your lineup. So those are, I think, all interesting options on Saturday or Sunday night.
Yeah, it's just Dallas is same thing on Dallas side. Just play your normal people. Who, if you've been starting them, they're going to do all right for you. Randy Gregory, he hit the wall last week. It was a good matchup, but Armstrong and him got kind of a split rotation thing going. Law got his, so I'm not worried about Gregory though. His ceiling and his upsides there for this matchup against Washington. The numbers are that good, so I can play him.
All right, finishing up Monday, Miami is visiting New Orleans. Who are we going with in this matchup? Tripp?
This is another one where, being a Monday night game, it may be a situation where people need guys, and so there's a bunch of interesting names on this. I think that are reasonable, not maybe ideal, but reasonable matchups, and a lot of these guys will be on waiver wires. And the Miami side, I like Zach Sealer, who's a defensive lineman, not real an edge rusher, more of a run stopper. But against the Saints, they're going to want to do some run stopping because they're going to face Ian Book. The starting quarterback for the Saints this week will be a guy named Ian Book of Notre Dame fame, not Jason Hill or Trevor Siemian or anybody else. And so I like Sealer in this spot. He was productive last week, had a sack, a couple other big plays against the Jets because, they're Jets. And then also at linebacker, you got a Landon Roberts, again, a run stuffer. So a part-time linebacker, but with the Saints, I don't expect to see them spread out the field. And so Roberts, I would expect to see a little bit higher snap share. On the Saints side, David Onyamata finally came through. He's a guy that I have in a lot of leagues, and he finally had like 6 tackles and a sack last week. Finally, a spot where I had to have it in the quarterfinals of my playoffs. So excited to see that. And the same was true with Marcus Davenport. Brady had to stand back there and pat the ball because all his weapons were hurt, and so Davenport got to him also. And so he's a guy that I'm excited to play against the Dolphins this week. Tua tends to get rid of the ball okay, but his line is bad, so I'm happy to get my Saints DLs in there. Then it's you got a couple defensive backs worth looking at. We saw that Malcolm Jenkins is on the COVID list. I'm interested to see how that affects C.J. Gardner-Johnson's usage. He's more of a slot defender typically, but if Jenkins is out, Gardner-Johnson may play more of the actual safety role. And that opens the door for P.J. Williams, who's their regular slot corner. And Jaylon Waddle gets quite a few snaps in the slot and quite a few targets from Tua also. So I think that both of those guys would be worth plugging in there and more of a emergency type of a situation.
So what you're saying, Tripp, is that Marcus Davenport, even though he played Tampa last week, played well.
Yeah, exactly.
Gary,
well, you're going to like this one because
do you recall, Gary, a co-host who said to start Davenport last week?
Well, hey, I can't get them all right, but I'm going to tell you what, it's not that shiny of a matchup this week against Miami either.
I only get one a week. One a week, buddy.
So I am basically, depending on the size of the league, I'm not necessarily running off this week. And in the defensive tackle, I'll never say his name that you're talking about. I've been using him for weeks in my deeper leagues, and he's been doing me just fine except for one game before this week. But the matchup wasn't there, so I didn't have him in. It was that bad. But when I look at it right now, I'm not that excited about plugging any of them in against Miami. Just the numbers here. Miami is sitting pretty mediocre, if I remember right. Okay, so off the edge, Miami is 28th in production, allowing production off the edge the last 5 weeks. And at the same time, they are 22nd in allowing it in the middle. So if I have better plays, I'm not going to let the idea that a division game that these guys were hyped up to play and they overproduced and overperformed or whatever, because they haven't been overperforming necessarily. And we did have Davenport doing it there for a little bit, but the MSRs were also there. So he was matching them well. I'm not taking that chance if I don't have to. If I have a better viable play at that same level of talent of player, I'm probably taking it over this matchup. That's all I'm saying. Not getting defensive about it. because every dog finds his bone, and they found their bone in Tampa Bay last week.
Well, let me just be clear what I'm saying here. I'm saying that these guys are backstop options, right? I'm not trying. I don't want to start anybody playing on Monday night because Saints are in the middle of a COVID outbreak.
Yeah,
you don't want to start any COVID. You don't want to start any Saints.
Good point, too.
Are they active? You need somebody to start these guys.
Yeah, I think they're good. Miami's going to get Holland back, right? So that's a bonus. He's been a little. I don't think they give a lot up to the Saints, or the Saints don't give a lot up to the safety necessarily for the last 5 weeks. But either way, Holland, the way that they use him and Brandon Jones, I mean, you're just rushing him up there. I think at least the film I had seen a couple of weeks ago when they're using Jones and those guys up there like pass rushers, if they're still doing that 60% of the time, it's kind of wild what they're doing. So they're solid plays even in this one, I think.
All right, gentlemen, it's time for final thoughts. You can find Tripp at Dynasty Tripp on Twitter. His work is at dynastyfootballfactory.com. Tripp, any words for our viewers?
Y'all hold your horses. This is going to be a week just like last. Roll with the punches. Keep active on what's on the news that's breaking. And Merry Christmas to everyone. Enjoy the time of the holidays. Enjoy the time with the family. Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath. Finally, the OG of IDP can be found at the IDP tipster on Twitter. Subscribe to Gridiron Ratings for all of his IDP analysis. Gary, final thoughts?
Hey, I'm just going to add in a Happy New Year. That's all I got.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm at JJ Wenner on Twitter. Thank you, Tripp, Gary, for joining me tonight. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. I wish all of you a very Merry Christmas, very happy holidays, Merry New Year, all those things. Enjoy yourself, spend time with family, relax, and if you're playing in the playoffs, feel free to lose. I mean, just saying, feel free. Don't feel any pressure to check your lineups this weekend if you're playing against myself. But you can catch all of our old episodes on Spotify, Apple, wherever podcasts can be found. Make sure you turn in on Tuesdays for IDP First Take with Craig Reith and the crew. And remember, your path to the title starts with Gridiron Ratings. Goodbye, everyone.